thank you. I'm excited to be here, and I didn't even know that this was such a close connection with what you are currently doing at Kaiser X Labs, so it could fit quite nicely. Yeah, what I wanted to talk about when I heard this global topic, spicy, I was like, well, this could really go very nice together with how we behave, because spice, I think it always has two sides. Either we like it, but if it gets too much, or if it's too much, or if it's too hot, then we don't like it anymore, and most importantly, no benefit comes from it anymore. So for quite some time now, I'm in the topic of how people work together, how people collaborate, how people deal with each other, with what mindset, and also I'm thinking a lot about the question, okay, why are so many conflicts even happening? Currently, at the moment, in our agency, we have one of these conflicts that we try to get a grip on, and we talk to a lot of people, and one of our first findings, and this is something that happens a lot, is that on the factional, rational side, there is no conflict. Conflicts usually, or tough conversations usually, come from elsewhere. They tend to not so much come from facts and what's on the what side, but they more come from how people say things, when, at what point of time do they say things, and in what tonality, and what kind of temper. So this is going to be the topic of my talk. I think I've already been introduced. My name is Vera. I live here in Munich. I'm married for quite some time now. I'm a brand strategist currently at KMS Team. I'm also a mediator and coach. This is also, I think, why I love the topic so much, why it's really my thing, and also why I'm here today. But I also love ideas, and the two things, I think they go quite nicely together, and this is also going to be one of the topics that I'm going to talk about today. Everything that I say is coming really from personal experience, and this was also the starting point for it all, I would say, because many years ago, I think at some point of time I came home and I was like, okay, there are a couple of things that are really bothering me, mostly then at that time in my professional life. And this were a couple of situations, for instance, like this one. I was going into a meeting, be it externally with a client. I'm working in the agency business for many years now. And I couldn't go through, or couldn't get through with my idea. And this, I probably, you can relate to that. This makes you dissatisfied, and you're coming home and you say, okay, it didn't work, and we needed to go for the smallest idea, or for the idea that's the least attractive, actually. And maybe you are even on a rational side again, convinced that it won't even work. But well, okay, it happened. The client didn't like it. We couldn't convince him. So this was one of the situations, and then there were other situations where I was just speechless. You get feedbacks, input, or just comments from your colleagues, or also from your clients, that you just can't handle, or you can't handle them quick enough. Sometimes then this is the situation, you come home and say, oh, I wish I had said this or that, or I wish I had said this or that. So the missed opportunity, the feeling of a missed opportunity, which is also kind of makes you uncomfortable. And then the third thing is more of and this also kind of bothered me. Sometimes I got upset, and usually, from my experience, the one person that gets upset in a meeting or raises his voice is in the end usually not the one that goes away from this discussion as the one that is seen as the winner, or as the confident person that solved the whole thing. So usually the one that gets angry is then the one that's been looked at, okay, he kind of was out of line. But what is the starting point of something like that? I mean, this is just examples here, but in the creative business at least, you have so many comments and feedbacks on your work that are just not rational. No? My wife didn't like it. I showed it to my son, and he likes green. This is red. Can we maybe change it? I mean, it's bits and pieces. It's very small, but we all know it, and it's like, okay. So So this is kind of where I come from, and my goal was really, I wanted to be more successful in the sense of I wanted to get through with my ideas because I was convinced of my ideas and the concepts that I was going to present, because we usually, and I think this goes for all of us, we put so much thinking into it, more thinking than the people we present it to normally. More quick-witted, more tempered, also more confident. I mean, in a way, I always was like, I wish to be this person that is so calm and so confident and can handle it all. And so this is probably a state that we will never achieve, but I think it's worth to work towards it. Because in the end, it also makes you more satisfied. So before I go on, and there are a couple of post-its here. If you want, you can write it down or make a mental note. Are there any situations that you can think of that were similar? Just make a note or like memorize it. We want to revisit that later. Just like can be one or two, can be personal or also can be professional and business-wise. I hope there are enough post-its. So the main part of the talk today is going to be about how we can achieve that, or how at least, or what worked for me to work towards this state of like being more calmer and more confident. But before we do that, I just want to quickly go into the why again. Because besides to just want to feel better, there are also objective reasons why this really makes sense and why it's worth the effort. Because you always have a choice, obviously, and avoidance is always an option. You can just avoid these situations. You can just, and with avoidance, I don't necessarily mean you are not going to be part of these meetings or of these presentations, but you can always choose to not say anything. Or say, okay, then I'm going to make it red. Or give in and like walk away. In some situations this might make sense, and it sometimes also can be the political wise way to go. But on the other hand, there are a couple of reasons that really can encourage you to work on conversational skills that might, as I said, help you to approach these kind of situations differently. And I think it all starts with acknowledging that basically objections show interest. I'm not sure if you can relate to that, but I've experienced it many times, and sometimes I like it, but essentially it's one of the worst feedbacks that somebody just said, oh yeah, okay, go on. The bigger the idea, the bigger the concept, the more harmful is such a feedback, because it usually says, I didn't listen. I didn't listen carefully. It sometimes means that in the next 2 or 3 meetings, he will then come back to this decision and question it again. So if somebody really gives a comment or a feedback or an objection relating to your work, basically, and first and foremost, it's interest, which is a good thing. They usually also create better results. And with better results, I not necessarily mean your idea is going to be the winning one. But a better result is also a result that is going to be sustainable, that is going to be working, that is going to work for not only you and from the creative perspective, but also from your client side and from a organizational perspective. So results that are not just nice and good, and we all know that. I think if you're in the UX business, it's only, I don't know, 20% of anything. Okay. We need to achieve sustainable results that really make a difference. Also, and this is more on a personal side now, usually if you handle objections and tough conversations well, you have a better relationship with your customer, with your colleague, and also with yourself. So it's really worth the effort. That's also actually why I did the coaching and the mediation training, which is effort, but at least for me it paid off. So it's only going to be a quick talk today, so it's not going to be very theoretical. So I at least tried to make it very hands-on and actionable for you. So it's more going to be focusing on examples rather than the theory behind it. For me, it's coming down to 2 main things that can help you to handle tough conversations better. The one is mindset, the other is conversational skills. You can't jump into the second without having the first right. It's not only about choosing the right words and convincing people with strategies, and even if they are conversational, it's also about being in the right state of mind. This is a quote I liked a lot when I came across it a couple of months ago, where Shiba Morihei, I think he's the founder of Aikido, the martial arts form, and he supposedly said, when you are attacked, embrace the attacker in your heart. And this is one of the quotes that you can easily say yes to, but it's very hard to achieve. But I think there is truth to it, and a way to go into this direction can be to acknowledge that there is one truth: we don't necessarily understand what we hear. What we understand and what we hear are two different things most of the time. And if you acknowledge that and reflect that very deliberately, it can help you to be less offended, to be less quick in your answer, to handle tough conversations a bit easier. One example, many of you might know the model and the theory behind it. It's the 4 sides model. In German, it's 4-Ohren-Modell from Friedemann Schulz von Thun. He's a German psychologist and professor at the university. And the model basically says, the theory basically says, there are different perspectives to what a person says and what the other person hears. So a very, very easy example. Someone says, I'm cold. What can you hear? You can hear he or she is cold. You can also hear he or she is not feeling well. This is already an interpretation, because actually he or she just said it, he's cold. You can also hear he or she wants to be close to me. We have maybe all said or heard that at one point of the time in positive connotated situations, hopefully. So I'm cold, okay. Which is an interpretation, and hopefully you're right in the situations, because otherwise it's going to be awkward. Or you can also hear, if someone says I'm cold, oh, he wants me to get him warmer. Go and give him a blanket. It's not what he or she said, but we can hear that. Other example, we ran out of coffee, could be the comment of maybe your partner, maybe at home. Also here there are different possibilities of what you can understand from what you hear. From beginning with there is no coffee, or she would like to have a coffee, or it is my responsibility to make sure we have enough coffee. I ran into this trap a couple of days ago, and my husband was really, I didn't say that. I was just really only stating that we don't have muesli anymore, cereal. And I was like, okay. Or then, oh, she wants me to buy coffee. So it's natural, it's human, but to acknowledge that this is a fact can help you to say, okay, maybe get my intel right first. Coming back to the model, the theory says, and it's true for almost every situation actually, there are 4 sides to every message. There is a factual level. There is a self-revelation level. The moment people are saying something, they say something about themselves, because the words you choose, the tonality you choose, they always tell you something about the person. It also has a relationship component. So and this tends to be something that we focus on in tough conversations a lot. What do I think, or why does he say what he says, and what does he reveal about the relationship the two of us have together? And then what is also something that some people tend to focus or emphasize on is appeal. There are people who hear in every comment an appeal. It can be true, there can be an appeal in it, but it doesn't have to be. So now coming to the professional side, also here, it happens a lot. My boss says the presentation wasn't good. You're coming back from the client, you have kind of a good feeling, and then there is this comment in the car, I didn't like the presentation. Well, also here, he says the presentation wasn't good, so the presentation wasn't good. Maybe he regrets that we didn't do better. Maybe he just regrets that there was not more preparation. I can also think or interpret that he thinks it was my responsibility to prepare better. This sometimes depends on hierarchy and obviously the title and the position you have in companies. It's quite easy to do it that way. And I can obviously also hear he really wants to do me better next time. So in a sense of he's giving me feedback on a personal level, on a professional level, and he's kind of evaluating my performance. So this is just the beginning of my talk, because just to acknowledge it, don't do anything with it, but in every situation and conversation be aware that this is the case, that this is existing, and you can choose what you understand. The more deliberately you are in this state of mind, you can choose to not understand that this might be an appeal, or you can choose to understand that this might be an appeal. This is a ChatGPT generated image for an explorer, very cliche. So I'm not sure if at any time innovation is going to come from that. But I think important is going to be an exploratory mindset. We call it untersuchend in Germany, in German. This also goes for any feedback conversation. Get your intel right. Just don't interpret too easily and too fast. And with exploratory mindset, I mean ask questions. It can start with a very simple one. Is it even true? We don't have any coffee. Yes, we do, like just around the corner. Is it relevant? In many professional conversations, there are statements that might get you upset, but they are not relevant to the subject or the discussion you already you really have. So maybe you can just let it go. Could be an option. Is it sufficient? Then on the self-revelation side, what is important to him or her? What is he really saying about himself or herself when he or she is making this comment? How does the statement make me feel? Also this, acknowledging that I'm getting angry, I'm getting upset, I'm getting concerned maybe can help. Doing this, and I'm aware of that, in like 2 seconds of reaction time is hard, but like it's a bit of a training and just remind that these are all possibilities. And also here on the appeal side, if you tend to interpret comments as an appeal or see appeals in any comment, ask yourself, is he or she really asking me to do anything? Or is it just a comment? So I would say first of it, when I say mindset, I mean you can't just say I'm now in the mindset of, okay, I'm now ready to handle difficult comments, but you can train it, give your counterpart the benefit of the doubt. There is less aggression normally in comments that you would think or that you would take out of comments. And many times you aren't attacked, you just feel attacked. This is equally bad, but it's a difference. At least in martial arts, but also in reality. So let's assume for a moment we are now in this exploratory mindset, non-judgmental. We are really in the mood of being an explorer. So what now? As I said, this is the first part, and now a bit of techniques can help to then do something with this or pick the right reaction really. Coming back to that, the mindset part helps you on the third one. I got upset. Maybe you can temper that a bit with like, okay, I don't even know why he said it. Maybe it's not even that important. So let me just get it right. It not so much helps you maybe with situation 1 or 2. So there are a couple of conversational techniques that can help you. It's not enough time, and it's not like a master class or a training today to go into all of them. I want to focus on number 3, as is highlighted here, the asking questions part, because I think it's one of the crucial things and also the crucial skills that can bring you results first, if we can put it like that. But it's one of the important stuff, because if we have such a feedback, this or others, the most important thing is actually to not answer right away, but to ask a question. Because I don't know what your experiences are. From my experience, at any time, my reply of such a comment was, this won't work. And I said, oh yes, it does work, because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you know? it seldomly had the reaction of my client or said, oh, now I know. So usually this doesn't work. So really what's the better way usually is don't answer right away in the form of, oh yes, yes but, ask questions. There are a couple of question forms. You don't need to memorize them. But there are a couple of question forms that can really help you. Effective questions, for instance, what is your concern is a classic. You can also just ask your conversation partner, what is the best solution in your mind? It's not forbidden to, you don't need to know everything. You can just ask him what's in his opinion then the right way to go. Hypothetical questions, I will go a bit into that later. How would you benefit from it? These are very nice because they tend to bring the conversation to a more positive side of the whole thing. How would you want to benefit? Where are the advantages? Because usually if a person sees an advantage in something, he's more behind it. And we come from this won't work closer to this could work, or maybe this could work if we do this or that. And this is basically then the entry point to a constructive discussion. There is backtracking if somebody says, well, or brings on a comment that is not even really related to the discussion we had, or then just opening up questions, divergent questions. Going away from lists of question types, we all, and you probably already know that, choose open questions. They work better than closed ones. But also use open questions that help you understand your conversation partner's needs. Because what also is true, there is positions and then there is needs. This won't work is not a need, it's not a goal, it's not any position. And if you say, oh yes, it will work because 1, 2, 3, you are too fast because you don't even know why he thinks it or she thinks it won't work. He could need a cost-efficient execution and you just got a lot of money. He or she could need a more collaborative process when you showed him the roadmap. He or she would think about approval at senior management. One of a real life example, we presented a large concept. I think an hour of discussion and presentation already have happened, 50 pages of presentation or I don't know, slides. And then at the end, kind of a similar feedback, this won't work. And the reason why he thought it wouldn't work is because we had, because we were defining the imagery style, we had plates with apples on it, and he knows that his boss doesn't like apples. So if we would have presented plates with bananas or I don't know on it, and this is easy to change. And then from this won't work, you can easily go to, okay, then maybe mangoes. So coming back to why does that make sense? Ask questions to really understand what's behind the comment. And also ask questions because usually the more people talk that are opposed to what you present, the more they already give a possible solution in what they are saying. So for instance, and now the questions that I have here on the slide is just entry points, right? Obviously there needs to be more discussion and conversation after that. But for instance, this won't work. For a moment here, and this is coming back to mindset, we need to let go of all thoughts that say, I did a bad job, he doesn't like my idea, he doesn't like my concept, he doesn't like me, because this is usually the train of thought, he doesn't like my concept and my work is worthless, I am worthless. And go to, okay, what is your concern? This won't work, so let's talk about it. This is what I mean also with a more playful. This requires distance from what you are doing, and this is usually very hard for us because we love what we present here. It's part of ourselves and also part of our heart. Still, you can train that also maybe before a presentation. And this also goes for that, for instance. From my personal experience, this was one of the worst feedbacks I ever got when clients said, I'm disappointed. You presented something and they told you, well, first of all, I was very disappointed. And you're like, okay. And it makes you small, defensive, and if you can manage to let that go, just say, okay, you're disappointed. Don't focus on the wording. What's your concern? What's happening? We've never done it like that. This is something I mentioned it before, trying to turn conversations to a positive side of it. How could this improve our ways of working? Obviously depends on the situations that you presented. don't have money for this. This is the same thing, hypothetical questions. Let's for a moment assume that it could work, because with this comment, he didn't say he didn't like the idea or she didn't like the idea. Maybe they like the concept, they want to do it, but we don't have money for it. Let's assume for a moment that, and the moment he or she then elaborates on the benefits they see around it, the moment they are talking about the benefits, they start liking it. Because the moment he's talking out loud, and the moment we are talking out loud about the things we think about, you tend to be more behind it. Tell this my boss. Well, yes. How can we help you? Discuss that internally. What do you need? This won't sell. All heard that probably. What would you change? This is what I referred to earlier. You can just ask him or her. Sometimes, at least from the agency side or consulting side, we tend to believe that we need to know everything and need to have a solution for everything. This is usually not true, at least not for complex problems or important topics. We can just ask. Also here, we've tried this before. Okay, let's come back and do something else. No, what kind of solution do you see? Because the answer to, for instance, this question will inform you where his concerns are, what he likes, what his goals maybe are. This is not us. Also here, what does it take? What does it take is always a good question. It's very broad, but it usually helps you to get deeper into the topic. Also here, ask why, but without using the why. I won't accept that. What does it take to achieve a viable solution? Maybe a quick word on the question word why. We tend to be objective to why, or to perceive why as a more of an aggressive question word, because it can be relativing your intent. It can even come across as being aggressive in a way that I won't accept that. Why? And this is usually not the entry point to a more constructive discussion, but more of a, okay, your part and my part. And now we're coming to a bit more personal maybe comments, because it won't work, we don't have money. This is kind of more on the rational side, and I said before, many conflicts are more on the emotional side when people get offended personally. I don't believe you, for instance. Here, let's assume for a moment that the person we talk about is not calling us a liar. He's relating to the subject we are talking about. Also here, go into the next discussion with a question that brings back the topic to what you were talking about, and takes away or ignoring the possibility of personal offense in a way. This is a very nice one, also a real life example. Has this been done by one of your interns? Don't even go there. It's yeah. I have one that has a master in whatever. Yeah, no, it's just don't even go there. Like concentrate back on what you really want to talk about, or this. I personally had that, and Tina she's an ex-colleague of mine, and I think we can remember this person on the client side. She was calling me and and she even added my name, which makes it more personal. She said it was in German, so it's per se, Vera Schnitzlein, this is shit what you are doing. And I remember I was quite young, and I don't know what I replied, but I was just like, what? And I think it was about really a very small activation concept. It was not, we were not conquering the world or so. It was, but here, why not just ask? Okay. I mean, it's like leaving. It's hard, but leave out this offense and accusation thing. Again, it's hard, especially when the things that you present are really close to what you believe, and you stand behind it 100%. But there is no benefit, and you are not winning anything if you go into an argument about that. Having said that, it's even, or it's usually not even about winning any times. I mean, when is a discussion or a presentation or a idea discussion a good meeting and a meeting worth being in and worth taking time for? It's usually not when you leave the meeting and you are the winner and the others are defeated, because winning and defeat is not part of business life. We need to come to a solution that is a good one, that is viable, that is sustainable, that is sufficient. Yeah, so are there any objections, similar ones or different ones, maybe tied back to the situation that you wrote down before, that are similar in their in the fact that they made you speechless or you didn't know how to handle it? If you want, you can also here write them down. You can also share them, so we can maybe find an entry point in form of a question together. Exactly. So yeah, so sometimes models and like phased approaches can be helpful. Reality might be obviously in the middle of it anyways, but usually it's a record, return, and then solution thing. And what I emphasized on today is the first part of record and return. And return is not meant in the sense of giving back and starting into the argument. Return is meant into the sense of, before you go into this phase of bringing up a solution or going into this discussion of how we could do it else in a different way, be sure that the other person has told you everything you need. And the shortest form of a return is like, mm-hmm. It's social grunting, we call it. You don't even need to ask bigger questions. You just need to, yeah, I think we do it all the time, and you have a feeling of when is there more or when not. Sometimes a bit of silence helps, and people tend to tell you more than they even wanted. Especially if you have someone where you say, okay, he did that before, and we are again in this at this point of the situation. Sometimes, if you are lucky and you have a person that does not feel comfortable with silence, they will tell you very much. They will go on for 15 minutes, and usually after these 15 minutes, you have the solution already, because he's telling you everything, why he had a bad day yesterday, and then you can say, okay, let's reschedule and talk again tomorrow or so. This is meant with return. I was just saying that it's not like killing somebody or defeating him, but like stay a while get your intel right, and then usually you have more information at least. That's it for now. Short. Thank you very much. Thanks.